Hey there, Dr. Nicole and Dr. Nick here from Integrative Wellness Group. We are here with part 2 of our Reset Your Mindset seminar. So today we are going to be diving deep into the power of vocabulary. And there's a lot of things associated with the power of vocabulary, but we also want to piggyback off of what we discussed last week. And we talked a lot about, the negative self-talk that comes up. We really talked about, setting goals and really trying to figure out what you want. So piggybacking off of that conversation, we did provide you with an exercise on how to figure out what you want. And one of the ways to do that is to actually write down what's not working for you in your current situation or your current life, and be able to flip that into what you do want. So some of you going through that exercise may have had a very long list. You may have had, I want a new car, I want a dog, I want a new house, I want a new job. And the biggest thing that we want to talk about today is how to kind of hone in on the things that really light you up, the things that really bring a smile to your face when you think about them. Because I think a lot of us maybe want more money, or we want to be in a job that makes us super happy. But when you go through that list, there might be a couple things that pop up, and when you talk about them or you say them out loud, your body language changes and a smile comes to your face, maybe even without you even knowing. So I actually want to start today with a quote from the book Think and Grow Rich, one of my favorites. So the quote is, "Henry Ford was a success because he understood and applied principles of success. One of these is desire, knowing what you want." And we can always think about things that we want, but at the end of the day, do we truly, truly desire it? Is it all that we think about? Is it bringing a smile to our face when we think about it? Is it, is our body language changing? Is it something that we literally are almost obsessed with? And I think this is really important for you to be able to start focusing your energy on the things you truly want in order to start to manifest them. And that's really what we want to go in today. So I guess a couple of the questions is, what do you want? How bad do you want it? And what are you willing to do for it? So this is where I want to bring Dr. Nick in and kind of allow him to elaborate a little bit on those questions.
Thank you, and hello, everybody. Like Dr. Nicole said, and Mr. Ford himself, he's a very intelligent and wealthy and successful man. And the biggest things Dr. Nicole mentioned was desire and the intensity of that desire. One other thing that I want to add to that is clarity. So if you add, a clear desire, that's going to allow you to attract and manifest those things really quick. So when she was talking about how it's like, I want $1 million, I want a house, I want a car, I want a better relationship, I want this and that. All those things are great, but it really dilutes your energy and your focus to exactly one thing. So if right now when we're starting the process, if you can focus on 1, 2, 3 things tops, you're going to get results a lot quicker. So starting out, pick your top 3 things that, when you glance over the goals or the things you do want, like what you said, what lights you up, what fires you. And with that, work on those 1 to 3 things for the next couple of weeks and longer. As we'll see, it's a process and it's a lifestyle. It's just like eating healthy. It's like working out. You don't do it one time and expect awesome results. You have to do it day in and day out. But when you do and it becomes your natural lifestyle, it's the feeling and the results are incredible.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say as an example, because I know that some people work well with examples, but when we started our business, we were just in this mindset of there's no other option. We're going to make this work. We're going to do whatever we have to do to open our doors. And we also had a very clear vision of what people looked like in our practice, not meaning their physical attributes, but meaning how were they interacting with each other? Were they smiling? Were they happy to be there? Were they the calmest they were in their day being in our facility? And we really had this vision of who they were, what they looked like, how they interacted, their personality. And that was bringing a vision, but bringing emotion into what we truly desired. And we didn't realize at the time necessarily what we were doing, but we were making this manifestation so much more powerful because we wanted it so bad. We wanted to help people so badly. And we really just wanted to, bring this level of healing and have these people interact in a certain way while they're under our roof. And it was amazing to see, a couple of months in that we looked around and we're like, wow, this is really happening. The people are really, they're communicating with each other. They're having fun. They're happy. They say, this is my most relaxing time of the day when I come here. So anything's possible, but you need that emotion behind it. And that's kind of where we want to go next. Is you might be sitting here right now being like, oh crap, I want to change my job. I absolutely hate my job, but maybe you're comfortable and you make a good living for your family and you have a family. So the thought of maybe transitioning into being an entrepreneur sounds like, whew, that's terrifying. And that's okay. But that's where we want to go today. Is we want to talk about, what do you tell yourself about those different things that you want, those things on that bigger scale. If it is changing a job or if it is buying that bigger house, what are the thoughts that are coming up, even the negative self-talk, the fears, and what are the things that you might even be saying out loud to yourself. So I'll let Dr. Nick kind of elaborate upon that.
So initially when she said, changing a career and all this stuff, even my heart started popping. I was like, oh God, that's a big journey. But I would say focus on the 1 and 3 things that you picked out of what you want, and don't worry about the how. Don't think that, oh, I have to change a job or I have to do this, or it's going to be like big drastic changes. Because right now, like, we all look around with blinders on. I mean, blinders are like the horses that you see, and all they see is straight ahead. Like, we're surrounded by endless potential, and it's some opportunity or a person can show up in your life tomorrow, today, in half an hour, and completely change everything. So don't worry about the how. All that will fall into place when you start the creation process. So we'll start with the emotion aspect of about it. Last time we talked about really our self-talk, the power of our thoughts and how they start the creation process. Thoughts are very, very, very important. But when you look at the timeline, as I would kind of call it, of the creation process, thoughts and beliefs are
meaning creating what you want.
Yeah, creating what you want, manifesting that, attracting that into your life. So it starts with your beliefs and your thoughts. Those are very, very important, but they actually have less energy. They have less actually physical attributes to them. I always say, like, explain this. I haven't attracted fully into my life yet, but I really want a G-Wagon. I desire a G-Wagon. I think they're sexy. I think they're sporty. I think they're very safe. And I desire one. So with that, you don't just say, oh, I desire a G-Wagon, focus on it, think about it. And then, you're never going to get a G-Wagon that way, or very, very, very rarely. That because your thoughts are the beginning of that process, and they have little energy. So the next step in that creation process is words. So words are crazy powerful. That's why we're going to talk about vocabulary today. But words are the actual first step in creating something physical. So your thoughts have not actually transcribed into this reality that we perceive right now, but your words are your first step. So when last time we talked about, positive thoughts, how they help you, negative thoughts, how they bring you down, being conscious of that's very important, but it's also being conscious of those thoughts and turning those thoughts into words that are going to be the next step, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Well, I think you said something to me earlier today that just hit the nail on the head. We were talking about what, some of the key points we're going to talk about tonight. And, Dr. Nick looks at me and he said, well, the thoughts, they're in your head and you think about them, you get super pumped for a little while, and then maybe you don't think about it as much because you got busy, and it starts to lose its momentum, and that creation process kind of stops.
It fizzles out.
It fizzles out. But it's a very big difference if you're going around talking about the fact that you're going to have a G-Wagon, that I'm so excited and grateful that I'm going to have my G-Wagon this July, or whatever your specific goal is. When you start to verbalize it, you start to have a lot more energy around it, not even just from yourself you're talking to about it, because they're feeding it and giving it energy. And then maybe if they ask, oh, how are you going to do it? Then you kind of take that a step further with giving it even more attention, giving it even more energy of like, okay, well, maybe this is my first step for this creation process. So I think it's just, you create that momentum essentially.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's all about, I forget the author, it might've been Good to Great. But he always talks about a flywheel, and it takes a lot of time to start spinning this big flywheel. But once you get a little momentum, it's actually easier and easier to keep pushing, keep pulling, and really get that thing spinning, spinning, spinning. And this is really the same process. Is like you start with some nice quality thoughts, self-talk, and then you translate that into vocabulary. You talk about it to yourself, you talk about it to other people. And one of our favorite things is actually creating, I call I am cards. They're really just goal cards, but talking about it verbally out loud in front of a mirror. That way you see yourself light up, because I mean, this is something you're crazy passionate about. I mean, for me, I have a goal card about my G-Wagon. I look in the mirror and I talk about it. I'm like, God, I'm going to look sexy in this G-Wagon. I mean, I'm lit up about it right now.
But don't you think it brings a different level to it when you, I think because some people, they might be saying their different goals out loud and then still in the back of their mind, maybe not believing it. Like, you know, I want that, or I want that G-Wagon, or I want that mansion. And they're saying it. And then maybe they're like, oh God, am I really gonna be able to attain this? But it's a different level of emotional connection when you do look at yourself and you start to visualize, what am I going to look like in that vehicle? What am I going to look like in my house? How am I going to go about my day in my new home, or whatever your goal is? And when you look at yourself, it's a different ball game.
And I mean, with anything, when you're dealing with health, you get better, quicker results when you deal with all five senses. So it's the same thing for this process. I mean, if you can see yourself in it, if you can feel what it's like to be in it. I mean, if you can smell that new car smell, the new leather smell, if you can like feel the torque when you're driving that thing, like that's going to get more emotion, more energy tied into whatever you're doing. But on the contrary, if you're standing in front of that mirror and you're reading off this, I am so excited and grateful to, God, I don't believe this.
Maybe that's not the one you should be focusing on.
Maybe that's probably not the one you should be focusing on, because you don't have that internal drive to be like, this really excites me, this really gets me pumped up, I'm going to do whatever it takes to achieve this. And whether it's materialistic, whether, I mean, I have other I am cards about increasing human potential and human performance. Those are the things that's probably honestly going to get me that G-Wagon. But they both fire me up. And that's when you go through and you pick a couple of them. And I mean, if they're all materialistic, you know, that's fine. I wouldn't do it that way, because you need things that are going to drive you to get the materialistic things if that's what you desire. But yeah, it's like whatever you pick, you got to have that fire, and you got to do whatever you want to do. It's like she said, obsessed before. Some people think being obsessed is a bad thing. Obsessed is a great thing. And you look at anybody that's changed the world or created something new, or like the light bulb, Thomas Edison, like he was obsessed. How many times did he fail? 0, because each time was understanding that he didn't fail. He knew another way that didn't actually create light. So it's the same thing. You got to be obsessed with what you want in life.
It is true. And, you know, those are the big innovators in the world, and have created either amazing products or have done amazing services for the world. They've been obsessed, and, you know, it was something that they constantly were either reading about, they were studying, and et cetera. And this is not to seem overwhelming, but when you truly sit down and you figure out what do you truly, truly want, and what, you know, do you value, what lights you up, then this work that might sound like work to you right now, it's not work anymore. You know, people ask me all the time, they're like, why you're always studying, you're always doing something, you're always reading an article, and I'm like, I love it. I'm such a dork. I love it. And, you know, I love learning more. It's my passion. I love helping people and having more tools for them. So it doesn't seem like work when you really, really care and you really want it. So, so I think that's important to understand.
Honestly why we're doing the mindset, is because I mean, my passion is on human performance and human potential, and you know, Nicole, helping people. But throughout both of those categories, we realized that one thing we worked on a lot with ourselves is our mindset, but we weren't able to provide that in a way to our clients that just because of time. So we're like, well, how can we still provide this to help people have a higher quality of life? And this is what we came up with.
Yeah, and help their healing journey.
Yeah.
You know, just to backtrack a little bit too, is you mentioned about not knowing the how. And I think that's a really important part of the puzzle, because if you are the person, the analytical person, and you start, because I know you are.
I was just going to say, she always tells me it's analysis paralysis.
Exactly. That's where I'm going with the conversation. So it's, if you're going to sit down and say, I want to start the new business, or I want, you know, a new car, and you sit down and you start to run the numbers, you're going to paralyze yourself. And I'm not saying the numbers are not important, but the desire, the want, the emotion, and the manifestation is way more important. And sometimes the how will work itself out. And this is not to sound woo-woo by any means. It works. So try it and give it all you got and see how it goes for you, because sometimes you can't always know the how, and you can't always run the numbers, and they're not always going to match for maybe what you're trying to do. You know, honestly, if somebody came in the beginning of our business and told us, they ran the numbers, they would have told us you're going to be closed in 6 months. And like I said, there was no option in our minds that that would ever happen. We didn't care what it took. So that desire really, you know, pushed us and kept us going forward. So, you know, I really think anything's possible.
And last time, you know, I talked about having the goals and writing down, you know, 200 things, that reasons why this is going to be beneficial for you, and 200 reasons, you know, without achieving this, how it's going to affect your life. You know, that's one way to even increase the emotion upon the 3 things that you pick that really fire you up. And I don't think I mentioned this, but I just read the other day that the 0.5 percenters, the less than the 1 percenters, the people with the mega wealth, they have at least over, pretty much each one of them has over 500 goals at a time. And you're like, why? Like, how much time does that take to write down 500 goals? And people say like up to like thousands of goals. But this is how clear they are about exactly what they desire and what they want their life. And they understand this mindset. So the more time and energy they put on creating exactly what they want, they're not going to be in a stream that's just, they're getting pushed around with the flow of everybody else.
Yeah. And, you know, and another thing, I was just recently rereading the book, Think and Grow Rich. They were talking about, I think, things that we experience, and especially as business owners, you know, sometimes you just feel like everything's falling apart, to be honest with you. And, you know, we call it the breakdown before the breakthrough. And it was so interesting because in the book, one of the stories they tell in the very beginning is a man who, you know, he went all the way out to Colorado, you know, when the gold rush was happening. And he was, you know, went to this specific area and was digging up, and he found a little bit of gold. And then they didn't find any more for, you know, over the course of a few months. So they gave up and they went back home. And the equipment that they actually used, they sold to a local man. So that local man, he kind of went out and he did some further exploration and realized that 3 feet away from this, the original man who was digging that, you know, gave up, 3 feet away was a massive gold mine. And it's interesting because the man who was, telling the story that he clearly, gave up and didn't, find that gold mine, he actually ended up using that as a life lesson to further his success with his career that it led him to. And he's like, I'm not going to sit here and be negative about the fact that I gave up, but now I know never again give up that easy, because, you keep pushing through, even as bad as it seems, and things will work itself out. And I thought that was just a really interesting story, because sometimes it could seem like things are so chaotic and they can't possibly get better. And, sometimes with the, having the persistence and having the patience, you can push through and things will be better than they ever were.
And a lot of times ironically, it's the universe seeing how bad do you really want it. I mean, are you worth having this lifestyle, this success? It's a different ball game, but like once you understand it, it's really, those hard times aren't really hard times. They become fun, because you know that, yeah, a couple more days or a couple more weeks or a couple more shitty times, the gold and the sun and the warmth and the beaches, like they're all right there, so close. And like when you go through it multiple times, it's like, oh, well, here it is again, and here it is again, and you just continue to up level and up level and up level.
Definitely. And, those of you that are, this is the, the first time you're really even considering, doing a goal card or anything like that, really the top steps that you want to take to start this process is go through the exercise that we did in our last mindset webinar. And that is going to allow you to kind of have a sheet that you can print off, and then you can write down what's currently not working for you, and then be able to flip that into what you want. From that list, you'll be able to kind of narrow down the ones that are going to light you up and that you feel super, super passionate about. And then from there, you want to transfer those onto those goal cards that we were talking about. So the strategy specifically with writing your goal cards is you write them as if you have attained them. So if it was, let's use a bigger house as an example, you want to be very clear on what you want that house to look like, what you want your family to look like in that house, the different types of activities you see yourself doing in that house. Maybe, if you are a writer, what is your room going to look like? How are you going to be a better writer being in that room? Really just the specifics for you, but get specific with it.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So if it was the bigger house, you always want to start it with I am, because I am sets the intention. And then after that is going to create your reality. So it would be, I am so excited and grateful to have a 4-bedroom house with a pool, a sauna, a large backyard for the kids and the dog to play, and is 2 miles from the beach. Boom. Like that simple. Don't get too crazy. Keep it close. So it's
like purple tile in square tile in the bathroom. You don't have to get that specific.
But with that, we talked about using the other senses. So if you create that I am card or that goal card, also create a vision board. There's a lot of hype about vision boards to look at it. And what that does is you see it every day. It starts ingraining your subconscious. So you naturally think that, oh, that's not out of my reach. It's actually part of your being. So if you read the goal card, you look at the vision board, you feel what it's going to be like in that house, and you see yourself in that house. Like, use every sense to create more emotion, because that's going to take you on that next step of that creation. So we talked about your thoughts, talked about your words. The next step is really like going into the action. And that will be one of our future webinars that we'll be getting to soon.
And one tip as well is, if you're maybe someone who was, you're maybe currently dealing with, just feeling maybe more depressed or feeling more anxious or having resentment or anything like that. And one of your goals is to not feel like that anymore. When you would do your goal card, you would not want to use this type of verbiage. I am so happy and grateful to not be angry. because you're still using the word angry and you're still focusing on that.
And the subconscious mind it only takes out powerful verbs, powerful words. So like it doesn't, what do I want to, the word I'm looking for, but it pretty much erases the word like can't or don't or haven't or like those words. So it's like she said, it's like, I don't want to be fat, or I don't want to be lazy, or I
think those are great examples. You want to focus on what you do want. So if you want to be calm and happy, I'm so happy and grateful to be calm and happy. So you're removing the negative word and removing the focus from that and focusing on what you're truly trying to attract. So that's just another tip in this creation process. So after you have all of your goal cards in place, the next step is to start to say them out loud. And you can definitely start with saying them out loud in front of the mirror and really, being able to visualize yourself, see yourself, and see how happy it makes you and the changes in your body language, and being really in tune with manifesting this, this goal. And I would say the next process from there is to now start to say it out loud to others as well. So what was the story about the person who won the lottery? That was from what?
Esther Hicks.
Yeah.
So,
it was in the...
Asking It Shall Be Given.
Yes.
I believe is the name of the book. So she had a story in there that this couple went around for almost an entire year saying that they won the lottery. And a lot of their friends thought they were cuckoo and crazy because they're like, hey, we won the lottery. But they hadn't won the lottery yet. Hey, we won the lottery.
Yet.
Yet. I'm like, no, we won it. And they went around like all the time telling all their friends and like strangers, and people are kind of like, you guys are crazy. And literally about 1 year later, they won the lottery. Oh. And, that's a different, I understand it. And it does happen like that sometimes because they use the thoughts, they use the verbiage.
They were obsessed with it, they desired it.
But most times it takes more energy going into action to really attract and manifest those things, but definitely not all the time. Going back to like talking about verbiage and vocabulary, one of the ways is using mantras. So mantras is, there's two aspects of doing a mantra. My favorite one is, like she said, like do it in front of a mirror, have that intensity, but say it over and over and over. And that's what a mantra is. Like, I am so excited and grateful. I'm so excited and grateful. I'm so excited and grateful, and get intense about it. The other mantra aspect is almost like a meditation or lucid dreaming, where you say it, but you're not driving that intensity emotion into it. You just say it over and over and over into a meditative state where your subconscious really grasp onto it. And that's doing a lot of the attraction. So those are really the two main ways to use this to create the life of your dreams.
Well, as we wrap up, I have 2 tips or 2 hacks, whatever you prefer to call them. So one of them is, once you establish your goal cards, you establish what you want, and you really get that on paper, and you start this process of saying it out loud, you have to do it every day. So you got to make the time for it. If you truly want it, you'll make the time, but you can't do it for a week and then not do it for a month or 2 months and then go back to it. Again, you're trying to build that momentum, and you are trying to really create that passion and desire, and you need the repetition there for it.
Exactly. It's like a healthy diet. Like, you don't eat organic and non-GMO food for 2 weeks and be like, I'm going back to Burger King or, McDonald's. And like, it just didn't work, organic, healthy, whole foods, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, it's persistence. Definitely, it's persistence. But one of the other things too that I really enjoy, and we'll give this to you as a resource, but there's an app that you can download that's called Brainwave. It is Brainwave 32 binaural beats. We'll give you a link so you can find this. But it's a really fantastic app that you download onto your phone and you listen to it with headphones. But there's all these different options. They have options for like concentration. They have options for sleep. They have options for critical thinking. They have options for relaxation.
They have a lucid dreaming one on there. So if you're going to do the mantras with lucid dreaming right before you go to bed or right when you wake up, I would say is the best time to do that. Because I don't know if you don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's really putting you into a dreamlike state. Like when you wake up from a dream, you're like, oh crap, was that real? Was that real? I'm not sure. Like that's lucid dreaming, where your subconscious mind doesn't really know the difference between what's reality and what's not reality. So it's really tricking the mindset to this is real. So if you can put your brainwave activity into a lucid dream state while doing the mantras when you wake up and when you go to bed, like you're gonna have a more powerful attraction.
Yeah, and that was really where I was going with the conversation is sometimes I think it's maybe hard for us to relax or make the time for ourselves, but you can crawl into bed and pop on the lucid dreaming, with your headphones and just try to relax, get your goal cards out and start reading them. And it's a great way to finish your day. And it's also going to impact your morning if you went to bed on such a positive note, really manifesting what you want and being able to wake up. And you can also repeat the process in the morning. That's one of the most effective ways to do it. So I think that those are some really great tools to start implementing what we're talking about today.
For sure.
So I want to end with a quote, also from Think and Grow Rich. You can tell I'm reading that book right now. But a burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. Dreams are not born of indifference, laziness, or lack of ambition. So, really the one thing to finish with today is figure out what you want, really start to implement the strategies that we talked about today, but take the opportunities that are presented to you. So if you are currently in your job, very comfortable, but you dream of doing something different and an opportunity presents itself, don't smack that opportunity away. Be present, because it's not going to, the things that you want are not going to come out of thin air. You will have to have somewhat of, different things that you're implementing or an action strategy to start to manifest that. So it's kind of like what Dr. Nick said before, wanting to enhance human performance, which is obviously his career. So that's going to bring more money to the table, which can help him to manifest his G-Wagon. So you can manifest all these material things, but if you don't have a strategy as to making a bigger impact maybe on the world or making that job change or whatever to attain more wealth, then you might find it harder to attain those materialistic things. So it's also, thinking about what is the one thing that you're going to do that's going to help you to manifest, what is on your goal cards.
Said it well.
Boom.
Thank you guys. Love you.
Till next time.